How do you feel about modern conveniences? Because this chapter is going to knock your socks off. We're talking about things like vacuum cleaners and GPS systems. But before those were around, there was the Antikythera Mechanism, the world's first analog computer from ancient Greece. The Antikythera Mechanism is also known as the Antikythera device, or orrery, after the Greek island of Antikythera where it was found. It was discovered in 1901 during an excavation of an ancient Roman shipwreck that had sunk in the seabed near the island. The artifact had been waterlogged for so long that it was completely corroded and encrusted with barnacles and algae. This made it look just like a lump of worthless scrap metal. However, once cleaned up, it turned out to be a beautifully crafted piece of engineering with moving parts, which scientists have dated back to between 200 BC and 70 BC. That makes it more than 2,000 years old. The device has a number of interlocking bronze gears and dials, and it looks kind of like a very complicated clock. And in fact, it's often called the world's first digital computer because it's an incredibly advanced example of ancient engineering. The device is so complex that it wasn't even fully understood when it was first discovered. It took decades of research to really get to the bottom of its many features. One of the most amazing things about the Antikythera Mechanism is that it was created at a time when the scientific understanding of the universe was rudimentary at best. Yet someone, or possibly a group of someones, managed to design a machine that accurately tracked the cycles of the moon, the planets, and the sun. The mechanism is thought to have been used to track astronomical positions, predict eclipses, and even tell the time of day. It's possible that it was also used for fortune-telling. The creators of the mechanism would have needed to have an incredible knowledge of mathematics and mechanics to make such a sophisticated machine, and yet their identities remain unknown, lost to history. If you enjoyed this chapter so far, please subscribe for more free science videos. Now let's get back to the show. Concrete is everywhere these days. It makes up the foundations of our homes, the roads we drive on, and many other structures that we rely on every day. But did you know that concrete was invented by the Romans? In fact, the Romans knew how to make concrete so strong that it can still be seen today in buildings that are thousands of years old. The reason why Roman concrete was so strong is because they added a secret ingredient to their concrete mix, volcanic ash. Volcanic ash is rich in silicon dioxide, which reacts with lime and water to form a strong gel. When this gel is mixed with aggregate and water, it creates a strong, durable concrete that can last for centuries. The Romans used this type of concrete to build aqueducts, roads, bridges, and even the Colosseum. Today, we do not use volcanic ash in our concrete because it's not as readily available as other materials. However, researchers are experimenting with adding other ingredients to concrete to make it stronger, such as glass fibers and recycled plastic. One day, we may even be able to make concrete that's stronger than steel. So if you think modern concrete isn't impressive, think again. It may not last as long as Roman concrete, but it's still pretty tough stuff. I'm sure you didn't expect us to include clocks in this video, but this next item will surprise you even more. Did you know that the first water clocks were developed around 1500 BC in ancient Egypt? They were used to measure time by tracking the flow of water from one container to another. The Egyptians also developed hydraulic automata, which were devices that used water power to perform various tasks, such as turning wheels or opening and closing valves. One of the most famous examples of ancient Egyptian engineering is the water clock known as the clepsydra. The clepsydra was a simple device that consisted of a container filled with water and a small hole in the bottom. As the water flowed out of the hole, it would cause a float to rise and fall, which could then be used to measure time. The ancient Greeks were also fascinated by water clocks. In fact, there's a well-known anecdote about the Greek mathematician Archimedes, that he was so engrossed in studying the properties of water clocks that he didn't notice an invading army approaching his city until it was too late. But it wasn't just the Egyptians and Greeks who were interested in water clocks. The ancient Chinese also developed sophisticated water clocks that were used to regulate the daily activities of palace officials. One of the most advanced water clocks ever built was the Great Water Clock of Suzhou, which was constructed in 1084 AD. It stood over 33 feet tall and had a diameter of 16 feet. It was able to keep accurate time for over 1,000 years before it was finally dismantled in the 19th century. Water clocks were eventually replaced by more accurate timekeeping devices such as mechanical clocks and then quartz clocks. But they remain fascinating artifacts of ancient engineering ingenuity. In the mid-19th century, an English engineer named John Henry Pepper built a robot that could walk, draw, and write. He called his creation the Pepper's Ghost. The Ghost was a mechanical marvel that could perform a variety of tasks without any electrical power. It worked by using a series of cams and levers to control its movements. Cams are essentially rotating wheels with a special-shaped edge that can be used to control the motion of other parts. By using a cam, Pepper was able to make his ghost walk forward and backward, turn around, and even draw a circle. The Pepper Ghost could also write using a pen attached to its arm. It would dip the pen into ink and then trace letters onto paper. Pepper's Ghost was an early example of a programmable machine. Pepper would set the program by placing a strip of paper with holes punched in it into a slot on the machine. The machine would then read the holes in the paper and perform the corresponding action. This allowed the Ghost to perform a variety of tasks that had never been done before, such as writing out entire sentences. Unfortunately, the original Ghost was destroyed in a fire in 1862, but several replicas have been built since then. One of the most famous replicas is on display at the Science Museum in London. Visitors to the museum can watch as the Ghost writes out messages on a chalkboard. While Pepper's Ghost was a remarkable invention, it's important to remember that it wasn't the first automaton. In fact, automata have been around for centuries. Some of the earliest automata were hydraulic automata, which were powered by water. More advanced automata were powered by steam or clockwork. The ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Chinese all built automata that could perform a variety of tasks. These automata were often used for entertainment purposes, such as performing music or mimicking human activities. One of the most famous automata ever built was the Jacquet dragon, which was built in the 18th century. It was a mechanical dragon that could fly and breathe fire. The dragon was built by a Swiss watchmaker named Abraham Louis Breguet, and it was so realistic that it was often mistaken for a real dragon. Automata have continued to fascinate people throughout history, and there are still people today who build automata as a hobby. If you're interested in learning more about automata, there are several museums around the world that feature automata in their collections. You can also find a lot of great information online. So next time you're looking for something interesting to do, why not learn about automata? You might just be surprised at what you find.